Hello everybody, I'm Nora Burrows. We are going to make fish number 2 today. In the last video, we made this stunning fish, and I had kind of placed a little eye up here, which I feel like it needs to get the full effect. I still have to attach it on, but there's the little eye on the fish. So we're going to make a different fish today, and the second fish is going to be facing the opposite direction. In the last video, I also pieced a bunch of these blue and black and gray pieces together. So I'm not going to do that again because you already saw me do that. You can go back to my last video if you want to see that. But these are some of the ones that I have already pieced together. My first fish was kind of more pinks and yellows. This fish is going to be kind of more deep greens and browns and kind of oranges. So let's see, let's start with the head. And again, it's a different fish going the opposite direction. I was kind of thinking of using these cool pieces for the head. So let me see what I need to cut for this. I've cut a bunch of pieces here. Let me tell you what they are. So remember, this is going to be the head. The mouth is going to be on this side, whereas before the mouth was on that side. It will be a different mouth. So up here I have a background piece, the water, of 2.5 by 6.5. Then I have 3 little 2.5-inch squares, and I didn't piece these. I just had a scrap of fabric that was close to 2.5 inches and cut 3 of these out. The water for this bottom part is the same as the top at 6.5 by 2.5. Then I have a piece 4.5 by 2.5, a 2.5-inch square, though this one I did have to piece, and ideally this piece would have been the same fabric as the other pieces of the head, but I didn't have enough of this. And you know, this is a scrappy project, and so this is kind of where the fun comes in, where you kind of have to make it work. So 2.5-inch square, 6.5 by 2.5, 4.5 by 2.5 is this one here, and then a 2.5-inch square. Again, I did not have to piece this one, but I love the little sparkly stars in this. They're like kind of even metallic. We're gonna put this blue water square up against the top part of this 4.5-inch green piece. And I'm going to draw a diagonal from corner to corner. I'm going to sew on my diagonal line and then cut 1/4 inch away from that line. So I'll cut this piece off, and then when you open it up, it'll look like this. So let me put my little clip in, the binding clips that I like so much. I'll attach this and put it next to my sewing machine. Then I'm going to take my 2.5-inch green square, put my blue square right sides together, and I've drawn a diagonal line from corner to corner. I'll sew on that line and I'll cut 1/4 inch away from that line so that when I open it up, it will look like this. Put that next to my sewing machine. This fabric here is going to be part of the fish body. This is 4.5 inch by 2.5 inch, and again, this is kind of like that metallic. I feel like the metallic fabrics work really well for these fish. So what I'm going to do with this piece is, if you flip it over, I've drawn my diagonal from corner to corner, and how I'm going to sew this is a little strange. It's the same as the last video, but if you didn't watch the last video, this may look a little weird. So if you put the green piece vertical, straight up and down, you're going to put this corner here of the orange to this corner down here. You're going to sew along this line, cut 1/4 inch back so that when you iron this open, it will look like this. We have our pieces sewn. I'm going to take this blue background 2.5-inch square. I've drawn a diagonal from corner to corner. I'm going to put that right at the bottom of this green piece here so that when I fold it back, it will look like this. And I'm going to sew this piece to this piece, right sides together, and so right along this seam 1/4 inch. I will sew this piece to this piece, right sides together, 1/4 inch along this seam. And then this full piece, I'll sew to this full piece, right sides together, 1/4 inch along this seam. I'll sew this piece to this piece, so this will be one unit, and then I'll sew the top to the unit and then the bottom to the unit. The fish head is done over here. I put this little, just placed the little eye, which I'll sew on a better one, maybe a darker piece later. But there's the head. Next we need to make the body and some fins. So I sewed a bunch of strips together using kind of browns and oranges and a little red here, which is actually a coral fabric, kind of perfect. So this is 8.5 inches long by 6.5 inches wide. I'll place that there. You also need an 8.5 inch by 2.5 inch strip. And then these are both 2.5 inch squares. I pieced this one, but not this one. So these are gonna go here. And then for the bottom, you need 4 2.5 inch squares of the blue water, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2.5 inches each, and then 2.5 inch thin pieces, 2.5 inch thin pieces. First, what you want to do is put your blue 2.5 inch squares right side together. So I have a blue 2.5 inch square on either side, right sides together. I drew a diagonal. Both of the diagonals are going the same direction. I'll sew on that line, and then for this diagonal, I'll cut this back part off so that when you fold it open, it will look like this. And then for this diagonal, I'll sew on the diagonal and then trim it back 1/4 this top part here so that when you open it up, it'll look like that, and that will be our fin. Put a couple clips on, put this next to my sewing machine, and then let's look at the bottom part. I'm going to kind of line my pieces up like this. And the fins are going to go on the middle 2 squares. We'll put again right sides together, and we'll make our diagonals going the same way from the top corner to the bottom corner on both of these. Let me draw those lines. Just like this. Then we'll sew on the lines, and we'll cut the top part off so that when you iron it open, you'll have 2 fins on the bottom that look like this. Let's go ahead and do that. Now we're going to sew right sides together, 1/4 inch seam, and open up. Same over here, sew 1/4 inch and open up. And then these two will be sewn together, so we'll sew this unit to this unit, right sides together. Then this will be 1 full strip. We will sew this piece to this piece. We'll put them right sides together. So 1/4 inch along this line and open it up. Finally, for this middle piece, we're gonna sew the bottom to the top, right sides together, right along this line, 1/4 inch, and flip open. The other thing I'm struggling with a little bit is this gray piece down here. I think that this really should be black, so I may trim off. I can't totally get rid of the gray because it would cut too much into this black, but I can make it smaller and then add some blue. I may do that, I may not. I'll wait till the end to decide. Next, we have kind of the end of the body here. We're gonna put these right sides together, draw a line on the diagonal. Let me scooch this over. Draw a line on the diagonal so that when you open it up, it will look like this. Again, on the diagonal this way. So when you open it up, it will look like that. Then we'll add the tail back here. When you draw your diagonal, you want to sew right on the diagonal and then cut 1/4 inch behind it, then open it. Same with this, sew on the diagonal, cut 1/4 inch back so you can iron it open. I think I may not have told you the sizes for these pieces here. So the blue background is a 2.5 inch square, same over here, 2.5 inch square, and then this piece of the fish was a 6.5 inch rectangle. So that goes here. So that goes here. And now what we're gonna do is attach the fish head to the body, right sides together, 1/4 inch, and open up. And then I've cut some pieces for the tail. Let's scooch this all over. Background piece, 6.5 by 2.5. Background piece, 8.5 by 2.5. All these green pieces are my tail pieces. And unlike all of my pieced fish up here, which were all squares and rectangles, I did do some kind of wonky shapes here. This is because I didn't have enough kind of bigger pieces of green, and I really wanted the tail to be green, so I just pieced some littler pieces. If you want to know how to do this, you can take a look at my crumb quilting videos. Just search Mostly Quilts, crumb quilting, and I have a series of, I think, 4 crumb quilting videos. So we have 4.5 by 2.5, 2 of them, 4.5 by 2.5, and 2.5 inch squares, 2 of them for the tail. Then we have another 4.5 by 2.5 inch piece, another 4.5 by 2.5 inch piece, and a 2.5 inch square. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna put these 2.5 inch squares back to back and take my blue background fabric and draw a diagonal line from here to here. Just like that. I'm gonna sew on that line and cut 1/4 inch back so that when I open it up, when I iron it open, it looks like this. Put a clip on it and put it next to my sewing machine. I'll also go ahead and clip these ones together like we talked about and put this at my sewing machine. I've put my 4.5 inch by 2.5 inch rectangles, both of them on either side here. I also have my 4.5 inch by 2.5 inch background pieces. I'm gonna place them like this. This one's gonna be placed like this. So we have the corner, this corner, the left top corner of the background up top, and then the right bottom corner of the background down at the bottom here. I'm gonna draw a line from corner to corner. I'll sew on that line and then cut below the line 1/4 inch so that when I iron it open, it will look like this. Let's take a look at this top rectangle here after I clip these together. This one is going to be placed a little bit differently. It's going to be the top right of the blue in the top right up here, and then the bottom left of the blue in the bottom left down here. You'll sew on this line and then cut back 1/4 inch the top so that when you iron it open, it will look like that. We've got a pretty big fish here. This piece is totally connected. Now, down here, you may be thinking, here, let's get a closer look here. You may be thinking, I don't really get it. And I understand that. Sometimes when you put things together on graph paper, it doesn't come out in reality the way that you anticipate. And I think this may be one of those times. But we'll go ahead and finish this, and then I'm going to show you how it looked on the graph paper, what my vision was. But all hope is not lost. Maybe this will come out cool. I think part of the problem is that this is successful up here in my mind because of the contrasting colors between the fish and the water. Here it gets a little bit murky, like this piece here is very similar to this piece here. This color here works well as it did up on the fin up here, but some of these other ones just, there's a lot happening. But let's move forward. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna sew this piece to this piece, right sides together, flip open, and then we'll sew this full piece to this full piece to create a unit by sewing along this edge and flipping open, and then this full unit to the piece up here, right sides together, and flip open. Let me do that. And actually, before I do that, so that is the order of the next steps, but before I do that, I think I'm gonna make a cut right here and add another piece of this fabric, because I have a good amount of scraps of this, so I can add another piece to replace that, and maybe that will help with the continuity. So I'll create kind of a new 2.5 inch square, but then the order of putting these together, like I just told you, will stay the same. Okay, a couple things. First of all, I had said that this was an 8.5 inch strip. I need to cut it down to 6.5 inches. It needs to be the same as the top one here. So I'll cut that down to 6.5. And then for the tail, I did attach these two pieces together. What I think I'm gonna do is, and what I'm noticing actually as I flip this around, this piece here was over here, it doesn't matter. But I'm looking at this, and let me show you how this tail was initially supposed to look. So here's a little behind the scenes. Here's the tail down here, and it was kind of supposed to have this cutout, which I thought looked kind of cool. but it doesn't really look all that cool. So I think what I'm gonna do is chop off this back here, add a piece of green, and then it will just be one large piece of tail surrounded by background. I think that will help. I think this piece is really throwing off the whole thing. So let me do that. This is looking a little bit better. It's all one piece. The key to having a successful scrappy block, in my opinion, is good contrast. And here there isn't enough contrast going on for this to be completely successful, but I think it works. It's fine. Let's keep going and see how it turns out. We're gonna attach this piece to this piece, right sides together, and flip open. Then we'll attach the top piece to this unit, right sides together, 1/4 inch, and flip open. And then the same with the bottom piece, right sides together, flip open, and then this will be one full unit. We'll attach this unit to this unit. The body of the fish is finished, and now what I'm gonna do, just like on the first fish that I did, add some pieced strips of the blue fabric, of the background fabric, similar to what I've done here. So I just kind of randomly pieced these together. I'll make it long enough for each one of the sides and sew those on. Then we'll take a look at the finished block and chat. Here is the finished fish. I think it's looking pretty good. I think it's not as successful as the first. And the first one was, in my opinion, easier to make. That could just be because by the time I got to the second fish, I was feeling a little done with making fishes. But all in all, an easy project and really pretty dramatic. Here's the first fish. And what you'll notice is the pieces in this fish are a little bit bigger than this one, especially on the background fabric. You can see these pieces. Let's take a closer look. These pieces around here get pretty small, and that's because I was running out of the scraps of dark blue by the time I got to the second fish. You can see here, they're still small pieces, but they're a little bit bigger. So I think that makes this fish, the first fish, read a little bit better. Also, the contrast in fabric was more distinct in this fish. The contrast in fabric was more subtle in this guy. But all in all, I really like them both. And what I was realizing is that I did another watch what I make with these scraps that turned out to be this sun, a different video, or star, depending on how you see it. I thought it would be pretty cool to have this star in the middle and then one of the fish on top and one of the fish below. So let me lay that out and let's take a look at what that would look like. Here are the three pieces together. I think it could make a cute baby quilt. I'd have to figure out how I wanted to connect the pieces in terms of fabric, if I wanted to make it scrappy or just do, you know, maybe a light blue background, one fabric. But that could be kind of cool. The bottom fish and the sun certainly look like they go together more than the top fish. The top fish is just kind of different colored. You can kind of see up there. But it could be fun. I could also do a baby quilt with just these two bottom ones. Would be kind of cute. I might think about that. So thank you for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.